Welcome to Code Acad. My name is Sami, and in this tutorial we are gonna create an amazing Flutter app. We are going to create a custom image generator using Flutter and OpenAI's GPT-3 model. So first of all, let me show you the flow of this app. This will be our app. We have one container that will be used to show an image once it has been generated. We will use this text field to send a prompt or description to the OpenAI's GPT-3 model, and in response the model will give us a URL which will be some network image, and once we get that URL we will show the image into this container file. And once the image has been shown into this area, you can download that into your gallery as well by clicking here. Fine. So let me give you a demo. If I say a baby girl playing a guitar, let me send it. Okay, so first it will show this image is being generated file. We got a response from GPT-3. Then we will show this percentage because this is a network image. Okay, so this is an image that has been created by GPT-3 model. You can download this to your gallery as well by clicking here. If I click here, and we will also show this progress when the image is being downloaded. Fine. Let's check the gallery. I'll go to my gallery. This is the image that I just downloaded file. So let's start working on this project. I have opened this main.dart file. I have this main method, our entry point method, and I have passed this widget to the run app method. This app will return material app, and I set the title to be image generator, and I set the dark theme and the theme mode to be dark. I also set the debug show or checked mode banner to be false, and I passed this home screen to the home argument. And this is our home screen. I have this screens folder. In this screens folder I have this home screen file, this home screen widget. This home screen is returning a scaffold with an app bar. The title of this app bar is a simple text image generator. Let's check this app out. Okay, fine. This is our app with a simple title image generator. This is our current app and this is our target app. This is what we want. Fine. So first I will create this container. This is a simple container that we will use to show the image once we get from AI. It has a little drop shadow as well, and the child is set to be a simple text when the image is null. Fine. And then we will add this text field as well. Okay, first let's add this container. So I'll go to the scaffold. I'll set the body, and yeah, there is some padding as well, so I'll add padding. Edge insets dot all 8 maybe, and then I'll add a child, and the child should be a column. Let's add children argument, and the first child should be a container. Let's set the width to be double dot infinity, and the height should be same as the width, so To get the width of the device, I can say I'll use media query dot of dot size dot width, and let me set the color as well. We'll first set the decoration to add the drop shadow. So decoration should be box decoration, and then I'll set the box shadow, which takes a list of box shadows. So I'll pass a single box shadow to this list. I'll set the color to be colors.gray, and then I'll set the offset. The x-axis should be 0 and the y should be 2 maybe, and then I'll set the spread radius to be 1, and then blur radius should be, I think, 4, and then let's just set the color as well. Colors dot white. Fine. We just got the same container, I think. Let's add this field. Before I add this field, I don't want this container to be in this file. If we start adding these different widgets into this file, then this tree will get bigger. So I'll just create one new file. I'll name it to widgets image container. This will be a stateless widget. First let me import material dot stateless widget. This should be image container. Let me copy this container. Actually cut it. I'll cut it and I'll just paste this container here. Fine. And this should be constant. Let's go to our home container. Fine. Now I'll add this text field. Fine. We have to add some borders, and then we have to make this rounded like this one. First I'll add some borders. To add the borders, I'll set the decoration, input decoration, and I'll say border outline input border. Let's check it out. Fine. And we have to add some extra spaces between this text field and this container as well. Let's say const sized box, height should be something like 14. Fine. Let's make it rounded. I'll say radius border radius dot circular 25 maybe. No, 25 should be 30. Fine. Let me just format it. Now let's add this send button. I'll set the suffix icon, and this should be icon button. Let's make it nothing for now, and icon should be sent. Fine. And when I click on this, the radius of this icon is just too big, so I'll just work on this. Splash radius should be a 20. Okay, fine. Now I'll add this hint text. Just let me format this. Hint text should be input or description. Fine. And this active color should also be white, not blue. So for this I'll just copy this and I'll just focus border. Of course, focus border should be to change the color. I'll set the border side color dot white. Fine. We will get rid of this later. Fine. Let's actually get rid of this right now, this thing. Let me add this column. I'll wrap this into a single child scrollable view. Fine. And let me just make these constant. Before I go further with this design, let's just start working on our AI. I'll first create a new folder or file. I'll say services AI handler dot. Fine. I'll create a new class. I'll name it AI handler. And before we use AI handler, we have to add a package. So I'll press Command Shift P on Mac. On Windows it is Control Shift P. I'll search for add dependency and search for a chat GPT SDK. Click on this and install it. Let's actually go to pub.dev. Chat GPT SDK. This is the package that we are going to use, so you can just copy this from here as well and go to your spec.yaml and add the dependency in here. Fine. And once we add this, let's just get an API key. I'll go to this site, click on this site. I already have two keys, so let me delete this one. I'll create a new key and I'll copy this, and then I'll go to AI handler. First I have to create an instance of this AI handler. I'll name it OpenAI is equal to, I'll say OpenAI dot instance dot build, and then I'll just pass the API key I just copied to the token argument, and I'll paste this here. And then I'll set the base options. To configure some HTTP things, we use this base options, and we pass HTTP setup to configure some HTTP things. In this case, we can configure the response time out. I'll set it to be 20 seconds, and I'll also set the isLogger to be true. When this isLogger is true, then the response will be printed in this debug console file. First, I'll just create one method to dispose this OpenAI when we don't need it. So I'll say dispose, and then OpenAI dot close. Fine. Now let's come to our main work. I'll create a method named generate image, which will take one argument of type string. This will be our description. I'll name it prompt. And the return type should be future, of course. And this will return us a URL of the image. So this should be string. I think we should just create our own type def, because if somebody comes and he or she just see this code generate image, they may think that okay, this method is generate image, but what's this returning? What's this string? Is this image or something? So to make it clear, to make our code more readable, I'll use my own type def. I'll say type def. I'll name it image URL. We use this type def to create our own types based on the existing one. So our existing one is string, and we created our own type image URL. Now I can just use this image URL. Our code is now more readable, and this came null as well. Let's just use try case, because this generate image can throw some exception as well. First, I'll create an object named generate image. We'll pass this prompt to this object, and you can also specify how many images you want in response. I'll just say 1. The maximum should be 10, and let's also specify the size. The size can be 256 by 256, or 512 by 512, or 1024 by 1024. So I'll set the maximum one, 1024 by 1024, and I'll just save this into a request object, request variable. And now I'll use this OpenAI's method name generate image, and I'll pass this request OpenAI's dot generate image request, and we have to await for this because this is asynchronous. So I'll say await, and let's make this method async. Fine. This generate image will give us gen image response. So I'll say final gen image response. Fine. And then I'll say gen image response dot data. This can be null as well, so I'll use null operator. Let me check what is the return type of this data. This is a list of image data, so I'll say final list image data. Fine. This is because, as I said, you can get more than one images. I specified only one. If you want to get more than one, you can say 2, 3 or 4. So this will be a list, and then I will say list image data dot, I'll just access the last one since there will be only one item in this list, and this can be null as well, so I'll use the null operator, null aware operator, not null operator. And this is image data, so I'll just say final image data, and then finally I'm gonna return this image data dot URL. Fine, and this came null as well. So if we catch an exception, I'll just print the exception, and if something happens, if there is some exception, then I'll just return null. I think we are done from this side. Let's just try this out. I'll just go to home screen. I'll create one OpenAI's instance. Final AI handler equal to AI handler, and I have to dispose this as well. So in the dispose method, I'll just dispose this. Fine. Let's first just verify this if it works. So I'll say AI handler dot generate image. I'll just pass a dummy data. I'll say cat on the wall. I'll just say cat anime on the wall. Let's try this out. Missing plugin. Okay, this is using shared preferences. So we have to once quit this. Okay, so we actually get the response. Let me just restart the application. This is because this chat SDK is using shared preferences behind the scenes. So when I added this, I had to once quit the app and restart it. Let's check it out. Yeah, we got the response. We got this URL. I'll just copy this and I'll go to this browser. I'll paste it. Let's check it out. Fine. Good. Cat cartoon sitting on the wall. Actually, cat anime on the wall, not cartoon. Okay, so for this purpose, I'll just create one new method. I'll name it, I'll create it in this class. I'll name it generate image. This will take a string, not image, prompt, and this method is gonna call AI handlers method generate image. We should await for this. Let's make this async. Fine. Now let's connect this to this text field. We will just use this text field to get the response to generate an image. So I'll first just cut this out. I'll just encapsulate it into its own file. Widget, I'll create a new file. I'll name it to description field or something, and I'll first import material.dart. Fine. And this should be, I think, stateful, because we'll be using controller and disposing that and some more things you will see. Description field, and let's just paste that I just copied, cut, and let's make this constant. Fine. And then this is going to require one callback function. This will be final void function. This function will return nothing, and this will just take one prompt argument of type string, and the name should be onSubmitted. Fine. As this is a private, so I cannot directly say this dot onSubmitted, so I'll first say required a function string prompt, and I'll say onSubmitted, and then I'll just assign this to our private one. Fine. I think we are done from this function. Let's first just use this into our home screen. I'll say description field. Fine. And onSubmitted, I'll pass the generate image. Fine. Let's just check this out. I'll just assign this to result variable, and then I'll just print this. Let's remove this. Let's try it out if we are not missing something, I hope. I'll say baby girl cartoon. And I just click the button. Let's wait. It's not working. This is because I have not just passed the onSubmitted to onPressed. Let's say, and we have to create a controller as well. I just forgot. I don't know how can I forget this. And this should be stateful, not stateless. So I'll create a controller. I'll say desk controller. This is a description controller. Text editing controller. Fine. And then I'll assign this controller to this text field. Let's make this private. And when we click on this send button, we want to send the value of this controller. So I'll say widget.onSubmitted. I'll pass this controller.text. Fine. And let's also dispose this when we don't need it, this controller. So I'll dispose this into the dispose lifecycle method. I'll say this controller.dispose. Let's try this. Let's give it a try. I'll say laptop. Just tried it. Let's see. I hope it will work this time. Okay, fine. So it just worked. Now let's start working on this. When we get the URL, we will show the image into this container. Fine. So before I go to that thing, I want to get rid of this when I click on this send button. So what I'll do, I'll go to this text field, and then when I click on the button here, I cannot simply say this controller.text because we will just clear it and we will send an empty text. So first I have to save it into a variable. I will say disk something, fine, and then this controller.text, and then we can just clear it. Fine. Okay, so we are okay. I'll go to home screen, and when we get this response, I'll save this into an image variable. I'll name it image URL. This can be null as well, so I'll make it nullable. This is optional, fine. And then I'll come here, I'll say set state, and I'll set the image URL to be the result, and I'll just make this private. Actually, to select all the same variable, like if this is a result and this is a result, you want to select all of them, you can press Command Shift L on Mac and Control Shift L on Windows to select all of them, and then you can change them. So in this case, I'll select this one, and then I'll put underscore before this. This will make this private. Now let's pass this image URL to this container. Fine, let's go to this image container. This will require a string. This can be null. Image URL, let's make it private, and then this is required, but it can be null as well. I'll say image URL, and then I'll assign this image URL to this private one. Fine, and let's put this semicolon here. Okay, so let's come to the child of this container. I'll create a child. Okay, so first of all, I have to check if the image is null or not. So if the image is null, then I have to show this thing. Fine. So I'll say image URL is equal to null. Fine. Then I'll say center child text description to generate an image, and if it's not null, then we are not gonna use network image. In this case, I am going to use cached network image. So first I'll add this new package. I'll press Command Shift P, and then you can just click on this add dependency. If you don't see it, you can search for this. Fine, click on this and search for cached network image. And there are some features that this cached network image provides us, which network image cannot. We can use this cached network image to show some progress as well. because this will give us the progress when the image is being loaded from the network, and we will use that progress to show some linear progress or percentage. I will say cached network image, and then I'll pass the network image here. I'll use this bang operator here. Keep in mind that only use bang operator when you know for sure that this cannot be null. So we know this cannot be null because we have checked for nullability here. Fine. For the timing, let's just try this one. We will work on this cached network more because we are going to show some progress as well. First, I'll just pass this image URL to this container. I'll say image URL, and this cannot be constant anymore. Let's just try it out if it works. I hope we don't get any error. I'll say mobile phone on the table. Let's try this out. Okay, so we are not showing any text when it's null. Okay, we are getting an error. It's 400, so it means this is from our side and this is null. I think we are making some mistakes in this description field, maybe. Let's check it out. I'm not using this, I'm just passing the empty one. I'll pass this description. Let's try it out. I hope this will work now. I'll say mobile phone on the table, and let's try it out. Fine, and we got no image. Fine, we got the image, and first of all let's just fit this into the container, and then we will work on the progress side. So I'll go to image container. I'll just set the fit property of to be box fit dot cover. Fine. If you set the fit property to be a box fit dot cover, it will take care of the aspect ratio, and it will also fit its parent. Fine. But if you use box fit dot fill, it will fill its parent, but it will not take care of its aspect ratio. Fine. And if you use contain like this, then it will take care of the aspect ratio, but it will not fill its parent. Fine. So I'll use the cover, and let's make this const, and let's also format this. Okay, I know if I use this cached network image into this file, this is going to get bigger. So I'll create one new file for this. I'll just cut this. I'll just create a new file. I'll name it my cached network image dot. You can name it as you wish. And I'll just create a new stateless widget. I'll name it the same, cached network image. and this will require one string variable that is image URL. So I'll say string, this can be null, image URL. You can make it private as well if you want to, but in this case let it be, and this dot image URL. Fine, and I'll just paste what I cut, and let's import this cached network image and this as well, and this should be image URL. Fine. Now let's use this cached network image into our container. I'll say my cached network image. This requires one. Okay, I have not make it required, so I'll make this required. Then I'll just pass this image URL to this my cached network image. Now let's work on the progress side. This cached network image has one named argument which is progress indicator builder, which takes one callback function. Let's just work on this. I'll explain this. This will run when the image is being downloaded file, and when it is downloaded then this will show this image URL. I'll first get rid of this arrow function. This will give us one download progress object which we can use to get the progress. I'll say progress, and I'll just name this download progress. Download progress. Progress is equal to, this should be download progress. I'll use this object to get the progress. Fine. And this progress can be null as well, as you can see. If it is null, I'll assign 0. Fine. Okay, now come to the main thing. What is the widget that we want to show on the screen when the image is being loaded? This is the container. What I want to show, I want a linear progress bar to be sitting here to the bottom, and one percentage value should be shown in the center. So for this I'll use a stack widget. I'll return a stack. If you don't know about a stack widget, it is a widget like a row or column which aligns its children on top of each other. And I'll set the alignment to be alignment.center. And then I'll use a linear progress indicator. I'll set the min height to be something 30. I'll set the color to be white, and I'll set the value to be progress, and I'll just wrap this into a container. You will see this why I'm doing this. And then I'll set this decoration, set the border. This should be border. I'll just set the top, border side, and I'll set the color to be black. Let's just format it. Let's just give it a try. I'll say laptop. the image is being generated and we are not showing that. I'll show that in a second. Okay, so this is working. I just have to align this to the bottom, and in the center I'm gonna show a percentage. So first of all, let's work on the generation thing. So first of all, I'll show that image is being generated when the GPT is generating an image. So for that, I'll go to home screen. I'll create a new variable. I'll name it is generating. By default it's false, and once I call this generate image, I'll set this to be true. Is generating is equal to true, and once the image has been generated, I'll set it back to false. Is generating should be false now, and I'll now pass this into image container. I'll say is generating. I'll create this letter. Let's go to image container. Final boolean is generating. And then I'll just say required this dot is generating, and in the child I'll first check if is generating, then I'll show a center widget with a child of text saying image is being generated. Fine. Else we'll go for this part. Let's check it out. Let's say cup. We are not showing anything. Let's check. This is because of the color of this text. This is white, and on white background we cannot see a white text. I'll set the style. I'll say text style. Color should be black. If I say Batman versus Superman cartoon, fine. Now it's okay, it's working, image is being generated. And once it has been generated, we will show this progress bar. Now let's just get this to the bottom. Since this is on the stack, so we have to use a positioned widget. To do this, I'll just wrap this into a position widget. Positioned. I'll just say bottom should be 0. Boy, I'll say let's wait Okay, fine. We are getting this error because we are not setting the width of this container. This is because a position cannot identify the width, so it cannot align its child. I'll just say width should be media query dot of and size dot width. Let's check it out. I hope it will work now. I'll say boy anime images being generated. Fine. Okay, this time it worked. Now let's work on this percentage thing. I'll just add one more child. That should be text, and in here I'll say progress. This progress is a value between 0 and 1, so we have to convert this to 100. So let's just multiply this with 100, and let's also set its color. I'll just set the color text style. Color should be black. And then some size, let's say 20. Let's just check it out. I'll say baby. Image is being generated. Let's wait. Fine. Okay, so this is some decimal value. We have to get rid of this point. To do this, you can just say to do this you just have to wrap this into parentheses and then convert this to string as fixed 0, and then I'll show this percentage sign as well. I think we are done from this side. Let's check it out. And when we send this description, we have to close this keyboard as well. Let's work on this too. Fine, it's okay. Great, let's just close this keyboard when we send this description. To do this, let's go to description field. I'll create a new variable. I'll name it focus node. For this we use a focus node object. Focus node. And then let's go to our send button function. After I clear the description, I'll just close the keyboard. I'll say focus node dot unfocus, and you have to assign this focus node to this text field as well. Focus node, focus node. Let's try it. I can say boy again. Fine. So we are done from this side. Now let's start working on this download button, and there are a lot of more things with this download button. So let's get started. Let's go to our home screen. In the app bar, I will add this icon button to the actions of app bar. I will not directly add this icon button to this action. I'll create a new file in this widget folder. I will name it image download button dot, and then I'll import material dot. Let's create one stateless widget for now. Image download button. This will require one image URL that it is going to download. Final string, it can be null, image URL, and then I'll just say required this dot image URL. And I think this should be stateful. I will simply return an icon button. So I'll say icon button. For the time being, let's say we want to do nothing. Icons dot download. Let's use this into our app bar. Image download button, and I'll pass this. And there is some difference of size, and let's also make it disable when there is no image. So if there is no image, this should be disabled. Let's go to this image download button. I'll check widget dot image URL is equal to null. Then I'll just pass null, else I'll pass some function later. Fine, and let's add some size. This should be, I think, let's say 30. Let's just say 35. I think we are good to go. Let me just give some format. For downloading the image, we will use Devo node HTTP, and for saving the image into gallery, we will use a package named image gallery saver. Fine. Let's go to pub.dev, search for Devo. This is a Devo package. You should read this readme file. If you don't know about Devo, it's like HTTP that we use for making HTTP requests with some extra features. We will see those extra features later. You can just add this by going to this installing and copy this. Let's go to pubspec.yaml and I'll paste this here. And next package is image gallery saver. This is the package that we are going to use to save the image into the gallery once we download it using Devo. I'll just directly install this using Command Shift P. Image gallery saver. Fine. Okay, so since we are saving the image into the storage, we need some permission to be added into our files. First of all, let's go to the iOS part. I'll just copy this, and then let's go to iOS and runner, and then info.plist. I'll just create a new key, paste this, and just close this. And then you have to tell the users as well that why do you need this permission. String, this app needs to save images to your photo library, something, string, just close it. Now let's come to the Android part. It says in Android version 10, open the manifest file and add this line to your application tag. I'll just copy this and I'll go to Android app, source and main, then Android manifest.xml file, and I'll paste this into this application tag. But we need one more permission, so let's go to Google. I'll say Android write external storage permission. Let's go to this site. And then I'll just copy this one because we only want to write, not read. Let's go to this manifest tag. I'll paste this here. Fine. Now let's start working on this download part. I'll just close these. I'll first create a new file in this services folder. I'll name it image save manager.dart. In this file I'll create one class. I'll name it image save manager. This class will only be responsible for saving the image into a gallery. We will do the downloading part into some other class because I don't want to violate the single responsibility principle. That's why I'm just encapsulating these things into their own classes, because each class should be responsible for their own task. So let's just create one static method. I'll say future void and I'll name it save image. Then this will require one uint list. This will be used to pass the data of image, because the data that we are going to download using Devo will be in form of bytes in list. So we use this uint list for that purpose. I'll name it image data, and second argument should be the name of the file. So I'll say file name, and then I'll just use this image gallery. I'll check if I have added this to our pubspec.yaml or not. I think it's missing. Yeah, it is missing. I don't know why. Let's go here and let me try this one. Just copy this. And I'll just paste this here. Let's save this. I'll say Flutter pub get. Now let's try it. I'll say image gallery saver dot save image file, and then I'll pass this image data, which is in form of list of bytes, and I will also set the quality, and I'll set it to be I think should be 60 or 80, and then I'll set the file name. It should be file name file, and let's make this async and also await for this file. And this code, this is going to save the image into the gallery. I think this is simple. There is no rocket science. Now let's go to the image downloader part. I'll create one new class which will download the image, and once the image is downloaded, then this will save the image into the gallery. So I'll create a new file and name it image download manager dot class image download manager, and then I'll create one static method, and this will be of type future as well. For the time being, let's say void, and I will name it download image string, which will take one URL, and then let's use the devo package, this one fine dot get. I'll pass the URL. Let's await for this, and let's make this async, and I will just create a new variable to save the response. And I will also specify one more thing. I'll specify that the response should be in bytes. So to do this, I'll use this options parameter, and I'll pass options, and here I'll say response type should be response type dot bytes, because this will be an image and we want the image to be in bytes. Let's format this. And this method is going to return a uint8 list, so it won't be void, it will be let's return uint8 list dot from list. We will just pass response dot data to this uint8 list, because we know that this will be a list of bytes. If you don't believe me, you can just print this response dot data and you will get a list of bytes. So I'll say response dot data file. Now let's create a new class which will be responsible for downloading the image, then saving the image into the gallery. That class will use these classes. Fine. So I'll say new file image downloader dot class image downloader. I'll create a new static method which will return a future of type void. It will return nothing, and I'll name it download and save image. This will require a URL and a file name. I'll first use try and catch to catch any exception that we may get, and I'll just print this exception. Let's get to this try part. Fine, so first of all I will just use image download manager dot download image. I'll pass the URL. Fine, and let's also await for this. I had to make this async, and I will just store the result. And this returns uint at list, so this should be image data. Then I'll save the image into the gallery using image save manager. I'll use the save image method, passed image data and a file name that will be passed to this download and save image file, and I have to await for this as well. Now let's go to our image download button. I'll just create one new method which will be responsible for downloading the image and then saving that image into the gallery, but this method will use this class that we just created. I'll just say void download and save image. I'll make this async as well, and let's say await, and let's say image downloader, this one, do download and save image. This will require one URL and one file name, so I will set the file name to be datetime dot now something. You can set anything you want. I'll set, and I'll convert this to a string, and I'll pass image URL. Fine, and this cannot be null. Fine, and let's make this constant as well. And now we will just pass this method reference to this icon button. I'll say download and save image. I just have to pass the reference, not call it, and I have to restart our app. So I'll just quit this app and I'll restart it. Fine, so even if we download and save the image into the gallery, we will not see any response. So once we download and save the image, I'll print something, some value. I'll just print image has been downloaded. Let's just give it a try. Let's say bat and ball. Fine, and let's give it a try. I hope it will work. Let's wait if we see something. This image has been downloaded. Let's, oh fine, we have to give the permissions as well. So I'll click it now. Image has been downloaded, fine. Let's just check the gallery. Okay, fine, so it just worked. There are something remaining that we are going to work on. Let's go to the app. When I click this button, this should show some progress. So let's start working on this thing. So to do this, first of all, let's just do one more thing. When the image is being generated, this should be not available. I mean, let's say baby. This should be deactive, fine. And we can achieve this by just requiring one more property, generating, and then we will say required, and this dot is generating. And in here we will also check for this is generating property. If it is true, then we will set this to be null as well. So I'll say if widget.image URL is equal to null, or widget.is generating, then we will set this to be null, fine. So I think this is okay. We will just go with this, and then I'll pass this is generating, fine. Let's check it. If I now say phone, fine, it is disabled. And now let's start working on that progress thing. And to achieve this, I'll go to image download button, and in this state class I'll create one boolean property and name it is downloading, fine, and by default it should be false. And then I will just use this property to return something else if the image is being downloaded. I'll check if the image is being downloaded, is downloading. Then I will show a stack widget. This is because we will be having two widgets on top of each other, one icon of download and one circular indicator, fine. I'll set the alignment to be dot center, and I'll set the children circular progress indicator. I'll set the color to be white, and then let's add one more widget. This should be an icon of download. The size should be 18. Fine. And then we need a new variable. This will be the progress that we will use to show the circular bar. This will be of type double. By default it should be 0. There is no progress by default. And then I'll set the value of this circular progress indicator to be this progress that I just defined. Progress. Fine. Now the question arises, where do we get this progress from? This is really easy. This is why I used this devo package. This is straightforward. This devo package will help us a lot. I'll go to image download manager. This devo package has one named argument which is on receive progress. This will take a callback function which will give us the total size of the image and also the size of the data that has been downloaded. So the first argument is the data that is downloaded, that is received, and the second is total. Fine. So I'll just make this download image require one more function. Actually, this should not be required. This should be optional. So I'll say void function int the received size and total. This should be optional, and I'll name it progress. I'll just assign this to this one. Fine. Now since we are not using this class directly into our image download button, we are using this image download. So I'll go to this image download and we will require this function here as well on progress one. Not here, here. This should be optional. I'll say function int received and in total. I'll name it on progress. Let's format it. And then I'll pass this function to this one, download image that we just defined on progress. On progress, let's go to image download button, and here I'll just pass one callback function to this on progress received total. Fine. And then using these two values, I'll just set this progress. So to achieve this, I'll say double progress is equal to received divided by total. I don't want to create some confusions. I'll just rename it. I'll say prog, and then I'll say set state. I'll assign this prog to this progress. Fine. And once we are done with this, we have to set this value back to 0. So I have to set this progress back to 0 once the image has been downloaded. And yeah, one more thing, this is downloading. We have to set this to true when the image starts downloading. I'll say set state is downloading is equal to true, and once the image has been downloaded, I'll just set it back to false. Is downloading should be false. Let's just give it a try. I hope this will work. I hope so. Let's say mountains. Image is being generated. The button is disabled. Let's wait. Okay, so once the image has been generated, this button gets enabled. I won't download it now. Let's just wait for this to load. Fine, and let's give it a try. I hope this will work. Fine. Yeah, it's working. Fine. Okay. There is some padding problem. I'll fix this. I'll just add some padding here to this stack. I'll just wrap this into padding. Let's make this 10 maybe. Say a baby girl cartoon playing football. Image is being generated. Fine. Let's wait. Okay, fine, and let's just download this. You can do more things. I mean, once the image has been downloaded, you can show some snack bar or a toast, but I'm not going for that because this tutorial is already going to be a big one, so let's just ignore that. I'll go to the gallery. Let's just check for the new one. Fine, so we got this image. I hope it's clear, and I hope you have learned some more things from this project, and I hope you liked this tutorial, and if you did, please do subscribe to my channel because I'll be getting more amazing things like this in the future. So that was all from today's tutorial. See you in the next video. Till then, stay happy and keep coding.